Welcome back. Voting in this year's local government elections closes next Saturday and the results should be known the following week. Nationwide, more than 3,000 people are standing for office, including around 240 for mayor. Our reporter Torben Akel met some of the more unorthodox candidates and asked them what they'd do if they took over the mayoral chains.
The top of the South Island is known as a magnet for those seeking an alternative lifestyle. And Nelson City certainly has one of this year's most alternative mayoral candidates, Richard Osmaston, a boatie, pig farmer and former pilot who sees Liberal Nelson as the perfect place to start a global revolution against money.
The moneyless economy will solve basically every problem you can think of. We don't need any new technology. This is the answer. I'm utterly convinced of that. How we get there from here is more difficult.
The 49-year-old is a follower of a global movement called the Venus Project, the ultimate goal of which is a utopian, resource-based economy where no one must work and everything is free. Yes, Osmaston's offering Nelson voters the ultimate election bribe.
And I'm really serious about this. In our lifetimes, absolutely for sure, we will be living in such an abundant paradise, we won't be able to believe it.
He concedes he has no political experience, but says if he were elected mayor, he'd rather leave the day-to-day running of Nelson to his deputy and officials.
I'd spend my time educating, actually everybody, in the principles of resource-based economics. And I have to be patient because it just takes a little while for this to sink in. It's not bullet point, snappy answers, you know, like we have in our ridiculous parliament. This is serious stuff, it's science, and scientific principles sometimes take a little while to absorb.
Once Nelsonians understood it, though, the revolution would begin.
Top of the South does it. Somebody rings up from Dunedin and they want, oh, where's our delivery? Where's our... Oh, sorry, mate, we're all retired. It's all over, haven't you heard? We're not doing that anymore, we're free, I'm going fishing, see ya. But. Wow, they're doing it in Nelson, they're all doing it. Well, all of them? What about Reaper? Nah, it's all over. The whole thing, the whole sham's fallen down. So Dunedin and the rest of the country, zoop, bang, just does it the same. And then Australia won't be that far behind, etc. The US, and so it goes right around the world. And of course, good ideas catch on very, very fast.
Osmaston says his three competitors simply cannot deliver what he can, and they know it.
In the time that I've spent with the other candidates, some of Richard has rubbed off on them already. And, I don't want to say at some point they'll come to me, but already they're very interested in what I've got to say.
Further south, in quake-devastated Christchurch, 12 people are standing to take over from Bob Parker, including two highly controversial candidates whose poor performance in past elections clearly hasn't put them off. One of them is Peter Wakeman, who made headlines last month after invading the stage at Leanne Dalzell's official campaign launch.
Please go away. Peter, please go away.
Why did Labor put money into daring?
Wakeman says he was upset that Dalzell had been allowed to launch her campaign at the council-funded Christchurch Arts Festival.
I didn't think it was appropriate that any one candidate should be allowed to use that as a launch.
But while on stage, he kept berating her about the Labor Party until she'd had enough.
Please be quiet. Please be quiet. I am not standing for the Labor Party. Go away.
Wakeman isn't going away, though, and in fact this is his 8th election in 20 years. He's no stranger to controversy either.
You say that you're not Labor. You're clearly not Labor.
His first campaign was the Tauranga by-election in 1993, in which he came a distant third behind Winston Peters and the McGillicuddy Serious Party. He disrupted a public meeting then too after objecting to Peters talking too long.
I had the stage booked.
In 2004, he antagonised many Māori by standing in the Te Tai Hauauru by-election, despite not being Māori. Just 80 people voted for him. But his best result was the 2007 Christchurch mayoral election, in which he got almost 2,000 votes, or 2%. It's a long shot, but if he were to become mayor, he'd put pressure on the government to force the Reserve Bank to lend Kiwis money.
The only way that we can save ourselves from debt is if the government creates credit like the Michael Joseph Savage Labor government did in order that we can make it affordable to fund the rebuild for Christchurch.
And despite the polls showing Leanne Dalzell well in the lead, Wakeman claims he still has a fairly good shot of beating her.
A lot of Labor Party people have told me they've been disappointed with her as an MP, and I think I'm picking up a lot of the vote that thought they were going that way and have since changed their mind.
Also standing for the Christchurch mayoralty is Kyle Chapman, the country's most infamous right-wing extremist.
I'm basically the frontline resistance in this country against the government, how useless they are at serving the people. The City Council has basically become redundant. The government takes their responsibilities off them. They don't even put up a fight for it. They don't challenge the government on all the promises that they made that they failed to deliver. So basically I'm here as the protest vote, to let people have a controversial figure that they can vote for and say, hey, I'm fed up.
Like Wakeman, Chapman's run for Christchurch Mayor before, but his best result's been 2% too, which he got in 2004. He's also been known to disrupt election meetings here in 2011 with masked members of the right-wing resistance, which he set up 2 years earlier. Here they are in Christchurch earlier this year, and here's Chapman at that rally. He insists, though, that he's not a neo-Nazi, just a nationalist. And indeed, his only issue with John Key's Jewish heritage is this.
Because he's got that ticket back to Israel if he needs it, he's not going to put the same kind of interest into New Zealand as a person who's stuck here.
Chapman's main concern, however, is China.
They're buying up our companies. They have a free trade deal where they get all the benefits out of it, we get hardly any. They send over these workers. I think it's 1,000 a year we've agreed to. It's an agenda coming together.
Chapman knows he won't win the mayoralty, but is aiming for second place and a seat on his local community board. And to underscore his campaign pledge to boost vigilante patrols in the suburbs, he took me to an underpass that the right-wing resistance already monitors at night.
So I want to increase community patrolling in Christchurch, and I want our group to be able to get more access to doing community patrolling and get organised, and they just get some uniforms, probably just some polo shirts or something.
The next stop on my journey into electoral unorthodoxy was Taumaranui in the King Country, where at the old Meatworks Cafe, the new owner, pro-cannabis activist Dr. Green, showed me why he's running for mayor of Ruapehu.
We bought this 3 months ago, and we spent the first 2 months trying to get the power connected. And our fight with the lines company ended up with them threatening us for threatening them. And so here's our solution. We went out and bought a generator, and if we can produce power cheaper than what the community-owned facilities are providing, then we're going to have to do that. We can't bow to monopoly pressures such as the lines company are imposing on our community.
And so you're not the only person doing this though, are you?
No, the generator's being installed all over the district. I can't believe how many people have been coming to me and telling me their story and why they've installed a generator, all designed to overcome the lines company's monopolistic charging practices.
His issue is with the region's lines company, that's simply called the Lines Company, and the way it's billed locals directly since 2007, based on their peak power use the year before and the capacity of the lines that supply them. That's meant big bill increases for some customers, especially medium-sized ones, and while the Lines Company controls just 1% of the national market, in March it accounted for over a third of deadlocked cases with the Electricity and Gas Complaints Commissioner.
Their stock answer is, if you don't like it, we'll disconnect the line. Now, hang on, that's like holding a gun to my head, and that's not going to happen as long as I'm breathing and I'm the mayor.
Green grew up in Taumaranui, then named Ken Morgan, and has returned home after 4 decades stirring the pot in the big smoke. In the late 70s, as a Queen Street retailer, he fought the ban on Saturday trading, and in the mid-80s he ran a short-lived floating casino when casinos were still illegal. In the mid-2000s he did time for growing cannabis, and then on release started campaigning to legalise it, with a travelling bus and an Auckland warehouse where the drug was smoked openly. He served another year for possession and now faces a fresh charge of breaching parole.
Do you think your pro-cannabis background might put some Ruapehu voters off you?
For the people that understand what the fight is about, for people that understand the truth about cannabis, no. For those that have grown up being brainwashed, as I was for my first 40 years of life, I thought cannabis was the most evil of all drugs. Well, I wasn't going to get their vote anyway.
He says he has big plans to breathe new life back into the town and district.
We're going to do that by creating jobs in the hemp industry. This is a perfect place for raising and processing of hemp and to improve tourism, how to bring people to this town, music festivals, a wide variety of different ideas that will in fact create employment. Some of these things I'm going to do anyway, and I don't need to be mayor. But if I'm mayor, I'll be full-time mayor, and these things will happen because I will lead from the front.
Up the road in Otorohanga, one of 3 mayoral candidates is Rachel Membury, a newly qualified lawyer who owns a liquor shop that sells lingerie too, including the male bikini, the mankini.
I have a fondness of selling mankinis, which I think go better with alcohol than potato chips sometimes.
Her concern is the potential impact of the new earthquake strengthening regulations on Otorohanga's historic town centre.
People are not going to be able to afford to upgrade their buildings. If they can't upgrade their buildings, they will end up becoming derelict. The whole town will look like a ghost town.
And in Hamilton, I spoke with Jack Gillen, who wants to turn the city into the new Jerusalem.
Yes, well, I'd like to be voted in as father of the city, where all people live together as spirit beings, they all live together as one, where they walk streets of gold, the Holy Spirit leading the way. It's an equal society, and it's a society based on love and peace.
It was in Auckland, though, that I met this year's most high-profile mayoral wildcard, Emmett Hussey, a 67-year-old handyman whose many billboards around the super city have been hard to miss. Did you design your billboards yourself?
Not really. I worked out the wording naturally and I left it up to the printer.
Are you happy with the photo?
Yes, I am very happy with it. Some others aren't. They think I should have smiled. But I said I was taking on a serious job, so I had to look serious.
So how many billboards have you put up around Auckland?
I put 100 up altogether, yeah.
Wow, that sounds expensive.
Yeah, it is. About 16,000, I think, give or take, yeah.
And how can you afford that?
Well, it's out of my savings, yeah.
Your retirement savings?
Yep.
That's a heck of an investment.
Oh, yeah, well, you've got to stand up for what you believe in, and if you believe strongly enough, yeah, so I decided this is what I believed in, so I'm going to stand up for it, yeah.
Hussey hasn't just stood up for it, but walked the city streets too, hand-delivering election flyers to 10,000 homes in a feat that's cost him 5 toenails.
But the main reason is I've got a bunion on that foot, so I've got to wear a size bigger shoe than I would normally wear, which creates a lot of rubbing.
So that's the price you pay for democracy then?
Absolutely, isn't it?
Hussey's a good-natured man, but admits that he's angry, and that's why he's running for mayor. Angry about wealthy foreigners buying up homes.
They're just walking in and getting the best of it.
And angry about Auckland's new unitary plan.
Because they haven't even thought about the infrastructure. I mean, it's stark raving mad. It's lunatic stuff. It's the same as building a house without any foundations. It's crazy. It's nutcase material.
He puts his odds of winning at about 10 to 1 and reckons he'd be a firm but fair mayor.
I know that if you use the sledgehammer approach, you get a lot of resistance, so I would try and use reasoning. But in the end, I would get as tough as I had to get.
And is there a Mrs. Hussey?
No, there isn't.
More time for mayoral business then?
Absolutely. Oh, yes. Yeah.
So 7 of the less mainstream candidates vying for their local council's mayoral chains. And while he may not get there this time round, Nelson's Richard Osmiston surely wins this year's prize for sheer boldness of vision, for his promise of a money-free society.
It will sort out every problem you can think of in one fell swoop.
Starting in Nelson.
Starting in Nelson. Why not? We're better, you know?
Torben Akel reporting. That story was edited by Hitendra Patel.